Welcome to our One Cell at a Time public engagement programme for the Human Cell Atlas. My name is Susie O'Hara and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by our How to Build a Human collaboration and collaborators, Little Inventors, Dominic Wilcox and Ellie Burkhead, Heayes Design, Richard Heayes, Annie Wilbury-Clark from Sanger Institute, and Charlotte Bathram and Luke, who's going to be behind the scenes helping us in terms of all things tech, as well as Tracy. So welcome one and all. I just want to say, first of all, I genuinely appreciate the time and effort that you're giving to this programme. It's in such a mad week of change and disruption caused by the pandemic. We're hugely grateful and hope that you find it valuable and that you give some good feedback at the end, and there's going to be some time for Q&A and all that jazz. But just to say absolutely thank you so much for joining us. We're absolutely thrilled to have you here. So I just wanted to kick off by saying that for this session, we're going to be using slido.com for Q&A. And this is really to make sure that we address your questions during and after the discussions. And therefore, all you have to do is go to your web browser and go to slido.com and then enter the event code, which you can see on the screen here as card08. Once you do that, it allows you to submit your questions as well as updating any questions that from other upvote any questions from other participants that you think you want to see asked as well. And the questions with the highest number of votes will stand a better chance of getting answered by the speakers. But with this kind of an event, I'm sure all the questions will have some space and time. So please do get involved and use slido.com. Sign in. It's super simple. As you can see here, you can stay anonymous or you can attach your name to a question. And the questions and votes will appear in real time on an interactive wall, which you'll see on the screen. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for a second and ask our first live poll question, just to make sure that everyone has gotten to grips with the slido.com software. So Charlotte's just going to get the poll live here, which asks, what city are you zooming in from? So if you can just drop in the city that you're zooming in from, that would be really brilliant. We can kind of see it emerging live on the screen as and when people drop it in. And it's quite nice to just get a sense of, yeah, who we've got in the room with us. So we can see here now, we've got Oxford, Spalding, Cambridge, quite a number from Cambridge, which is lovely. Burgess Hill, Sudbury, great stuff. So people have got a bit of a sense of slido.com, which is great. So Charlotte, if you unshare your screen, I'll pop mine back on and continue. Oh, I don't want to leave the meeting. I want to share my screen. And here we go. So I just wanted to say that the Human Cell Atlas Public Engagement Project, of which I'm curator and project manager, is really keen to understand the impact of the activities that we're undertaking as part of our engagement programme. And we've commissioned Helix Evaluation to help with this. So you've been sent a link to a pre-event questionnaire, which is about 3 minutes long. We're also going to share that link in the chat now. And the purpose of the survey really is to collect anonymized but linkable data before you take part in the public engagement activity and the challenge. And then after the challenge is delivered in your schools, we'll be asking for further evaluation as well. Helix is going to be presenting this a little bit later on with more details. So thanks a million for your help with that. With your consent, what's interesting about the questionnaire is that each one that you submit will be exchanged for an entry token into a prize draw with the chance to win £100 in shopping vouchers, which is always nice. So do kind of keep an eye out for that. And I'll stop my screen again for our second live poll, which asks the question, Have you completed your 3-minute pre-event questionnaire? Let's see how we've done. Wow, we've got a strong start on the yeses. We've got a number doing it now, which is wonderful. We've got no's coming up to 25%, but hopefully they'll flip into the doing it now, which I see happening, which is great, and into the yeses, which is above 50% now, which is fantastic. So not a bad result for our pre-event survey, but do, if you have a chance, it doesn't take too long. If you can just fill it out, that'd be really, really helpful for us moving forward. Okay, Charlotte, I'm going to ask you to stop the screen again, and we'll do one more share from my side. And I will then just talk a little bit more about the public engagement project. So one cell at a time, the aim of our programme is to bring around a cultural shift towards enhanced and sustained engagement with the international research project entitled the Human Cell Atlas, and engage our research communities and connect them with public communities in a variety of different ways. Our real kind of objectives are to generate, meaningful dialogue and transparency between the researchers and the UK HCA members and communities that address the real questions and concerns around research and tissue donation, including issues around language, consent, etc. We want to build a culture within the HCA where our UK HCA members seek out and really value the opinions and experiences of communities and patients who donate to research studies. We want to co-develop a common language that enables the HCA to effectively communicate their science and their work to a whole variety of different communities, including younger people and students that you guys are going to be connecting us with. We want to normalise conversations within families around tissue donation and cell research. And we want to create a foundation really from which to build future public engagement activities across the whole HCA consortia. And that includes our international partners too. So the way in which we've approached this particular programme is really about bringing art and science together. And so that's a very important aspect of it. It's very much an arts-sci approach, which is why we've had our HCA members working with our colleagues, Little Inventors and Heayes Design over the last number of months to generate this challenge for you guys. Our public engagement activities are underpinned by 2 specific questions that have emerged from and can inform the science of HCA. The first being, what is it to be normal? And the second is, what influences people's value and trust in research involving tissue donation and open access data, 2 core tenets really of the HCA science. As part of this wider programme, which you can see on our web pages on the hca.org website, we've commissioned 10 different projects that explore these 2 questions using a variety of different artistic disciplines, approaches, ways of working. And you can find out more about the various different commissioned projects that we're delivering in Newcastle, in Oxford, in Cambridge, and in London over the next 12 months. But you're here to hear more about our How to Build a Human and Design a Card Game Challenge, which is being led by Little Inventors and Heayes Design. And we're super excited to hear more about that in a little while. There are other challenges that we've been delivering that we are currently in a live way delivering as part of this project. And the main one being a Young Poets Challenge, which is on the Young Poets Network. Again, you can find out more information on our web pages, and I'll pop the link to that in the chat after this. But that's really looking at the language of cells and really thinking about how poetry as a mechanism can really engage young people with the language that's being generated through the research and of science. So a brief look through our schedule today, and we will definitely be trying to keep to time, recognising that everyone has no doubt many more commitments and responsibilities happening around their heads as you're trying to focus on this, so appreciate that. So after my introduction, we're going to hand over to Anna Wilbury-Clark, who's a HCA scientist based in the Wellcome Sanger Institute in Cambridge. And Anna will be followed by Ellie from Little Inventors, who will walk through the teacher's downloadable resource pack. And then Richard will go through the game design element of that pack. Helix will give a brief kind of overview of the evaluation questionnaires that have been embedded into the process to help us find out the impact, as I say, of the work that we're doing with you. And then the end will be Dominic looking through our challenge website and walking through the various different aspects of it, and really kind of in a step-by-step way showing how you can, at the end, hopefully upload your students' ideas for kind of a public gallery, which is going to be great. And at that point, we'll have some Q&A from you guys, but feel free throughout the session to pop your questions into Slido, and we'll make sure that we get through as many as possible at the end of that session. So I hope that's kind of set it out for you, that you know what to expect. And it's my absolute pleasure to swiftly move on and introduce Anna to share her screen and kick off in regards to the science of HCA.
Hello everyone, I'll just get my screen sharing. I hope you can see a PowerPoint presentation. Panelists, can you guys see it?
Yep.
Yep. So I'm a scientist working on the Human Cell Atlas at the Sanger Institute. So basically, I'll give you a little overview in a nutshell of what this project is about, just in 5 minutes. So the main goal of this project is to try and discover all of the cell types in your body and where they're physically located. So we're building an atlas of the human body, identifying the cell types and where they're physically located. So the way that we do this in the Human Cell Atlas project is by looking at what genes are turned on in different cells. And we hope that once we've got this atlas together, this information is going to help us to better understand human biology, so to help us better understand ourselves at the most basic level. And then in turn, once we've got this atlas, we can then compare it against what happens in disease. So we can see how disease is different to a normal, healthy human. And that will also help us to be able to then develop better therapies for certain diseases, because most diseases tend to involve changes in your cells in some way. So we hope that this will be a really useful tool once it's built. So basically, if you want to think of it as a Google map of the human body, that's what we're trying to build. So when you go to Google Maps, you can look at the country or the world, and you can zoom into a country, you can zoom into a city, and you can go right down to the level where you're looking at individual houses in a street. With the Human Cell Atlas, what we want to do is to be able to look at the human body, and then we're going to zoom in down to looking at organs and particular tissues. And then you want to go all the way down to the level of what cells are in those tissues, how they fit together. And this data will be accessible to anyone who knows how to use it. So for the scientists, it will be looking at what genes are in those cells and various other measures to define what those cell types are and what they do. So we hope this is going to be a valuable resource for science, and eventually will impact on people generally if it does eventually get through to impacting on medicine, which would be the ideal goal in many years' time. In terms of why it's relevant to teachers and also to Key Stage 3 students, the students in Key Stage 3, as I understand it, should be studying a lot of the things that we are working on. So our work will give a real world context to the kind of things that the students are studying right now. So as kind of critical components of our work, we look at what cells are. We look at how cells are different from each other. So for students, I guess they might be studying things like how cells are different in shape and size and color and function. So we look at those things, but we also specifically study what genes are expressed in those cells and how genes make cells different. I understand that at this stage, students are also studying what genes are. So it should fit in from that perspective as well. Absolutely critical for our work is we are looking at how cells then are the building blocks to make tissues and organs, which should also be quite relevant. And we're looking at where those cells are located in 3D space. So how they can then fit together and how they can work together to form functional structures within organs. So I'm hoping that all of that stuff is quite relevant to the students that we're targeting here. And it'll give them a real world perspective on what we're doing in a science lab that is relevant to them learning about cells and genes. I wanted to show this picture because I thought this is just a nice picture showing the human body, and around it you can see some of the tissues that we're working on, which covers quite a lot of the different tissues in the human body. We're studying what cells all those tissues contain, and we're studying how they change over your life as well. So we are looking at pediatric samples and also older age as we can get samples. And our goal is to build a reference map of the kind of normal, healthy human being and how we are composed of different cell types. We are also looking at, for example, cancer as a particular disease state, but we're mainly focusing on normal, healthy cells. And then the last slide I have is just to give an idea of the scale of this project. So this is actually a really massive undertaking, and there's about 1,000 scientists working on this from all across the world. So I just wanted to give you a perspective that this is actually a pretty large initiative that your students will be getting involved in. And I hope they will be interested in joining in with this. And because it's a game design competition, I hope that will engage the students and encourage them to learn a little bit about the project. So I hope you're interested in being involved. And I will pass on to whoever's next.
Okay, I think that's me. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, is that working? Yep. Okay, so I'm going to start with the microsite. So on the Little Inventors website, we've set up a special microsite for this project, and Dominic is going to go through this in more detail later on, but just to show you, this is where you can download the pack. So go down to the challenge page here and scroll down, and there's a download button here. So that will take you to, that will download a zip file for you. And when you open that, you should have all this content ready to go here. So we're going to start off with the first file. So this is basically for you, the teachers, to get a better understanding of the challenge. It explains everything you need to know, hopefully. How to run the workshop. Obviously, it's completely up to you, but it's just a suggestion of how we've kind of put it together, and it might work well for you. Yeah, introduction, a bit more background about it, an idea of how you can break down the lessons, and then here how to submit the entries. But again, Dominic's going to go through that with you to show you, so you'll have more information than what we've got here. And finally, these are the questionnaires, which again, Ruth is going to talk through in a bit. So just to let you know, that's all there. So back to the pack. The next thing you've got is the challenge presentation. So this is basically everything for the lessons that you can show to the children. So I'll go through that in a sec. Yeah, I'll go through that now, actually. So we've got a PDF in there, just in case people want to flick through it on their iPad or whatever, but we recommend using the PowerPoint because it has a few extra slide notes in it as well. So that will open up to this. Go full screen. So I won't go through every slide because obviously we don't have time for that, but I'll just start off with the first few slides. Richard's going to go through the game design bit after me as well, so you'll have a bit more detail about that. But basically, to start off with, we've got some videos. So the first slide, there's a video from Dominic introducing the whole challenge, Little Inventors involvement, and just a bit about kind of creativity. Then we've got the brief. So we're looking for a card game that's fun, described in an easy to understand way with clear and engaging visuals and drawings, and the game should teach players something about the human cell atlas. So that's just an overview of the challenge. And then just to get the kids excited, hopefully, we're gonna obviously make the game into a real card game. We're hoping to print over 200 copies, and they'll get to work with our expert game designer, Richard, who you'll meet in a sec. So the general workshop structure is learning about the human cell atlas, getting some tips on game designs. There's quite a bit to learn about that from Richard, and then going on to designing your card game. So yeah, so I'll just go back out of this now so I don't have to go through every slide. Basically, the first half of this, up to here, is a short lesson about the human cell atlas. And in the pack, there's a more advanced lesson, and Anna will talk about that in a second. So this is kind of the brief overview. Just to show you as well, on the last page, there's a link to the YouTube channel, And we've basically put together some videos from lots of different researchers working on the HCA project. So the children can go through those on in their own time or whatever to learn as much as they want about the HCA. So the second part of the presentation is the card game section, and Richard's going to talk through that, so I'll just skip over that now. And at the end, we've got some final FAQs, extra help, things that the children may ask that you might need to know a little bit more about. So that's that. And yeah, so I'm going to talk about this bit. So we recommend this as a team activity. We think they'll get a lot more out of it if they can, but obviously in the current circumstances, that might be difficult. So that's kind of up to you whether you want to do that or not. But I'll show you in the next section, we've recommended some roles that they could take on, and hopefully by kind of splitting out what they need to do, they might get a better, kind of more developed game in a shorter period of time. So it's up to you whether or not you want to do it as a team activity, but we've set it up so that it can or can't be, basically. And that just explains the roles there that we've suggested. But obviously one person can equally do all these roles themselves. That's absolutely fine. So I'm going to go back to the pack now. So the next part of the pack, so this is to be printed out for the children to use if possible. And these are what we call the idea generation sheets. So this is kind of just to guide them with the process of designing their game. They're just to be kind of scribbled on, written on however they want, to help them kind of just make sure they think through every step. So the story of the game, the overview of the game, the science behind the game, just to make sure that they don't forget any of the crucial elements, and the look and feel. And here we've allocated the team roles at the top, if they did want to do it in that way, but again, it can just be one person if that works better. And the rules, so it's kind of just some prompts to help them think about what the rules could be. So I'm going to go off that now. So the next part is the entry sheets, and this is what we at Little Inventors need to get back, and Richard, to really understand their game, what they've designed, and this is what will be uploaded to the website. So these are really important that they fill in as neatly as they can. We can ask afterwards, but we had a bit of a question about whether or not students generally can print things out at home. Otherwise, yeah, we can talk about that after, but how best to deal with that, because in schools, these normally would be printed out. So the first bit here is the box design, and I'm just going to leave that for now because I know Dominic's going to talk about that later on. So I'm going to go off there. I'm going to pass over to Anna in 1 second to talk about this, which is the more advanced teaching on the HCA. And then the next part, we've got tissue sheets. So this is just to help the children design their game, because obviously there's a lot to take in. And we do want them to use kind of scientific facts if they can, but obviously it's a lot to learn. So this is just to kind of, I'll just open one properly. Give them an overview on each of the tissue. So the eye, what does the tissue do? What are the main parts? Here's some illustrations they could use or kind of copy. And then we've added some extra columns so that may help them with their game design. So how common the cell is, what it does, that kind of thing, special features. So that should really help them to come up with their game. Some scientific terms at the end, which they may or may not want to include. So we've got those. And Anna also said to me earlier that if they do want any more information on any of these or any other tissues, then the HCA researchers would be happy to help with that. So yeah, they just need to ask. And finally, we've put together a recap sheet for the students. And this is just so that there's obviously a lot to take in and they can just have the really key information there in front of them. So the game design steps, top tips for game design. And I've also put in page on here on incorporating the science. So just reminders of things that they could include that might help them design their game. So that's the pack. And so I'm just going to hand over to Anna, but I'll stay on my screen share just so we're not jumping around. And Anna, do you want to explain the extra game? Sorry, not the game, the extra teaching.
Yeah, so for the extra teachings, I would ask teachers to bear in mind that I put this together. I'm a scientist, not a teacher. So if you want to modify it slightly to fit your students, please feel free. But in this folder, you'll find one thing is this 5-minute lesson plan at the top. So that just kind of gives you all the information on what's in this folder and what resources you need to deliver it. So feel free to have a look through that if you want. But basically what resources are in there, there's a PowerPoint slide. So the PowerPoint slides cover what cells are and how cells build up our bodies. They cover what genes are and how they make cell types different. And then they cover a bit about the human cell atlas. And as part of that, there's also an activity, which is what Ellie just flashed up, which is this thing called Pin the Cell on the Human. Originally, that was designed to be like a game, well, a bit of a game, where there's the students are provided with, you can see the pictures, and they're also provided with the cell facts separately. And the idea is they have to try and match the pictures and the facts together and then put them on this picture of a human body. And then the sheet that Ellie's got up right now is the answer sheet for the teachers. But if you don't want to print those out, given the situation we're in, you could just email the PowerPoint file to the students and they can look at the images and the facts and try and match them themselves like that and put them in order in the PowerPoint or something. I think that would be fine. So I've just basically randomized the order of the slides in that so that it's not, it was originally in the order where they were all in the correct order, and I've just randomized them so the students will have to have a go at matching things together. So I hope that'll be useful to you for perhaps for the slightly more advanced students. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and I'm going to hand over to Richard, and he's going to go back through his game design section of the challenge presentation.
Hi everyone. Okay, I'll just do the obligatory screen share. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Great. So this is a game design challenge, which I've done before with schools. Basically, my main job is we design toys and games for toy companies all over the world. So we're trying to bring all of that knowledge and condense it down and try and deliver that information so the children can have a good grasp at having their own game. But in my experience, when I've done this, a lot of children kind of design games in their minds, and sometimes they design them anyway at home. Obviously, children have got different levels of ability of games. Sometimes they played a lot of games, sometimes they haven't played a lot of games. But we're going to make this a card game. And there's a number of reasons why we've done that. One, it's very easy to kind of prototype a card game. You just need any scraps of paper, post-it notes, anything to kind of make it. And it's also a kind of very easy thing to change, and it can be quite arty, you know. So I think what I should say is in the outset is we're not expecting a fully print-ready, finished gameplay from the children. I think we'll all be massively surprised, because I've always been amazed what children kind of come up with. I always go away with loads of ideas after speaking to them of when they design games. But basically, our job after they submit their ideas is to kind of work up the final graphics based on their ideas, obviously perfect the gameplay based on obviously their ideas, and we'll obviously, the intention is to stick as closely to their game as possible. And it just depends, you know, how we go. We might have to sort of edit a few bits here and there, but that's what our role is, you know. So again, we're not expecting, I say, a fully fledged game. And I think, you know, we're also hoping that we're not going to get lots of games of Snap and things, but I think we've given a lot of information to hopefully really spark their imagination. So if we just go through the slides. So firstly, there's a video, which I won't play now because it's 5 minutes long, but really I kind of go into some kind of basic game design theory, if you like, some basic ideas for them. It's very simple language, kind of using some everyday sort of ideas for how they could think about designing a game. And we really kind of talk about building on the story of a game, because a lot of games come from stories. Most games, even chess, has a story behind it. And here we have all this great information of the Human Cell Atlas to kind of build upon. And I think there's a lot of stimulus there to kind of get them thinking of, oh, the game could be like this, or the game could be like that. So obviously you can look at the video in your own time. And we focus on a few kind of simple things to focus on. Fun to play. Obviously, yes, this wants to be a kind of thought starter to get the children and wider public to think about, you know, this Human Cell Atlas, but ultimately it's got to be fun to play. Otherwise it won't engage anybody. It's got to be simple to understand. You know, you want to be able to easily describe this game to somebody. And it needs a great theme. In this case, you know, what is the game story? And obviously some aspect of the Human Cell Atlas in that. So we want some time to think about different ways you can use cells in the game. You know, there's obviously how they look, there's different shapes, they have different names. So there's lots of different ways you could imagine a card game being played, from even like some sort of trivia game to kind of a matching game to a fast, frantic game. You know, I think that we really haven't tried to make too many restrictions. We want to kind of see the children's creativity shine through here. That is the most important part. Here we just talk about the inspiration behind games that they might know, things like Monopoly, Pandemic, which actually is a very popular game right now. Settlers of Catan, they might know some games, and even games like Uno and Top Trumps, they can start thinking about games they might know that they've played themselves. Then we talk about the rules, because in a way the rules are super important, because it really helps them think about the structure of the game, like how the game actually works. And I really go into kind of talking about how to think about the rules, and we've got some great, obviously, information to help them as they write down the rules as thought starters, so they don't miss things out. And the most important thing is because it's probably the one thing that helps us understand how they think, even if their drawings aren't quite right or their gameplay might be not quite perfect. That how they think the game will be played is probably the most important part. And that's why we've got these different elements of the, you know, we've tried to break it up in terms of the editor and the scientist. And as Ellie said, this could be different students coming together with their skills, which would be great. But also it could be one student with all, you know, taking on different hats and wearing their science hat and their English hat and everything, their artist hat. So again, it's just sort of taking them through the steps, the process of how we design a game. And here we talk about the basic steps of game design. And this really it's part of the video as well. If you look at the video and then read this, that will go together really nicely. So really kind of clear steps. And then obviously we get into some of the sheets that Ellie talked to you about. Yeah, and good luck. And then we've got obviously the extra reference stuff, which Ellie took you through as well. So there's a lot of information there. I think the video is a really good start. You know, hopefully it really sort of sets out the kind of key areas that the children need to kind of focus on. But we've really tried to kind of keep it very sort of step-by-step process for them. Okay, yeah, so hopefully that was clear. I think, you know, and I don't know from our initial conversations, you know, children tend to get very engaged when they realize there's a kind of game design, and particularly that it's going to be a real product. You know, that we're actually going to make, you know, 200 at least copies of this. So they'll be digitally printed, they'll be look like real final products. So I think it's quite aspirational for the children to have a product they've designed or turned into a real product.
Thanks so much, Richard. And I think it's definitely worth saying that, as Richard says, you know, these ideas will be uploaded onto the microsite that Dominic's just about to walk us through. But they'll also, the winning team or the winning idea will obviously get a chance to work with Richard in developing that idea further prior to printing. And it will be distributed to everybody who takes part, but it'll also form part of the nationally touring exhibition as part of the wider One Cell at a Time programme of work as well. And that's going to happen in autumn 21. So just to kind of give a clear understanding of where this is all going eventually. But I'd like to invite Ruth Tainsley from Helix Evaluation to share her screen next, if that's okay.
Yeah, thanks Susie. Yeah, just very quickly, because I'm really aware I don't want to take up too much time on the evaluation side of things, but just to introduce myself, Ruth from Helix Research and Evaluation. I'm part of the evaluation team for the HCA Public Engagement Project, and our role as evaluators is to find out about the impact that the public engagement work's having in all its many forms, and the school challenge element is one of those forms. So we're really keen to find out what you and your students get out of your involvement in the challenge, and we really need your help with this in two main ways really. So I'm just going to very quickly share my screen to show you where the points are that we need your help. So oops, sorry, let's just share screen. Here we go. So the two main ways we need your help are for yourselves as teachers to complete a pre-workshop questionnaire, which I understand, I think I just quickly checked, and I think 12 of you have done it already, which is amazing. The more people that can do that, the better, because that's really, really helpful to us. And the idea is that you do that before you really engage too much with the material, so we get a sense of your experience and your perceptions before you get involved in the challenge. So ASAP really, if possible. No knowledge is needed in order to answer the questions. And then at the end of the challenge, so when you've completed your work with schools, with your students, and you've gone through the lessons and the workshop, if you could complete that a second questionnaire, which is the post-workshop questionnaire, where the link is here, that would be amazing as well. And that again is similar length, just getting some feedback on the experience for you as a teacher, and we just ask you for the numbers of students and some other very, very basic demographic details, which would be really helpful for background. And then the second main way really that we need your help is to ask your students what they made of their involvement in the challenge. And we've designed, if I click on it, I'll just take you through to it, a very short, if it's going to load, there we go, questionnaire in Google format for your students to complete. And if I just quickly show you what it looks like.
I don't think it's gone through, Ruth. Just
is it not?
No.
Oh, is it not? It's not gone through. Okay, well, not to worry. It's there from that link. I'm sorry, it doesn't seem to have linked through. Apologies for that. So it's very short, and again, it's just really to get their feedback, and that again would be super duper helpful for us to have that, because it gives us a bit more information and feedback about what the students have made of the whole experience. So it's really valuable for us and for the Wellcome Trust who have funded this work. So that would be great. Thank you so much. And just to say, I think Susie's already flagged up, yes, every time you complete one of our questionnaires, there's a chance you'll go into a prize draw to win some vouchers. Potentially there's 3 lots of vouchers, so 3 lots of £100. Obviously for the students, they are not entitled to be part of that for lottery rules, but for teachers you obviously are. So thanks very much. I'll stop sharing now, and we look forward to hearing more about your experiences. Thanks everybody. That's great from my side. Susie, has it stopped sharing?
Yes, it has. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Dominic, you can crack on and share your screen with the HCA Little Inventors Challenge microsite.
Okay, thanks, Susie. Yeah, just a little bit first before I dive into that, because many people might not know what Little Inventors is. So I'm an artist, designer, inventor of unusual things. GPS shoes and stained glass cars and stuff like this. And we started Little Inventors about 5 years ago to inspire young people to gain a passion for creative thinking and doing. And one of the core ideas of Little Inventors is to challenge young people to think about particular subjects and to draw their invention ideas. And then we ask experts around the world to turn them into real things, or to bring them to life in some way, to really take young people's ideas seriously. And this is what Little Inventors is about. And this is in many ways what this project is also about, working with Richard, who of course many young people would not have the chance to do so otherwise. So that's a little bit about Little Inventors. And you can check out our website, littleinventors.org. But anyway, this is connected with littleinventors.org. This is hca.littleinventors.org. Let me just go onto it. Oop. Right, I'm going to go back here. So you would come to this page. This is the home page. which just gives a general bit of information about the challenge. And but the main place to go is really the challenge, and this is where we use this as a sort of hub of information, and so you can get everything here, access everything here. So we've got a short introduction into the challenge here. We've got this video. I'll press play, but with the internet, I don't know if it'll actually work, but it's a short. That is me introducing a little bit about Little Inventors, and also a general introduction into what this challenge is about. So that might be a good little thing that you can play at the beginning, or you can show the students that video as a general introduction. Then we move down, and we've got the way to download the pack that Ellie took you through. We've split it into activities on this website. This is a sort of summary of the challenge, really. But we've split it into activity 1 here. So this is Sarah Teichmann, who's really one of the top people at the Human Cell Atlas, explaining about the Human Cell Atlas. So that's a nice introduction into what this Human Cell Atlas is. So these videos are obviously, depending on your circumstances, very useful in terms of giving young people the quick information in an engaging way that they can digest quickly, in addition to the resources which give a deeper understanding and more information. Now, there's also activity 2 here is basically, as was mentioned, we actually asked a number of researchers or science researchers at the HCA to use their mobile phone and do videos themselves, because there's many different departments, many different areas of the initiative. And so it's really interesting to watch those videos, and they in themselves could give you inspiration for teaching lessons, even beyond this HCA card game challenge. So there's a huge amount of resources. Then we move on to Richard, who's done a really great video that is, whether you're doing the challenge or not, I'm going to be telling everybody to watch this video. And my friend said, oh, I want to watch the video just because they're interested in how do you design a game? How do you design a card game? It's a really interesting subject. So that's a really interesting video to watch. And then we've got activity 4, which is really about, okay, so you've learned, so the first step is learn as much as you can about the Human Cell Atlas and human cells and tissues that are based on your existing knowledge, because Key Stage 3 students generally know a little bit about human cells. And so using that knowledge that you've learned and gained, to apply that, to apply your imagination to it. And as a designer, as an inventor myself, that's what I do all the time. You set a challenge, you set a brief, and you have to digest lots of information. And actually, what I recommend is, that you introduce that this is a card game challenge at the very beginning, because the young people will, I believe, listen more intently to the factual information, because they're not just learning something interesting, but they're also, the information are ingredients they need to come up with a great idea for a card game. So it's a sort of practical, we've actually done a test with a school who gave that feedback, that some students who were otherwise not so engaged in this type of science lesson suddenly became extremely engaged in it and extremely interested. It taps into many different types of personalities. So that's again just that step of, okay, starting to discuss. So discuss it in teams or small groups, If they're working individually, that's no problem. I mean, I work individually. Designing a card game would be a great challenge, but we have designed it, as Ellie said, so that 3 people or 4 people even could work together. But that's really up to you. We have to be flexible, particularly nowadays with the virus. So it's completely up to you, and I'm sure you'll use these resources as you see fit. But there's a lot there to use. And then finally, of course, we need all the students who've participated to communicate their idea at the end. It's up to you how long you take with the students. We initially designed it as a 2-hour workshop from beginning to end, but then the other school split it into 3 parts, 2 on the science and 1 on the design. They may add another part, which was uploading the ideas as a separate part. So there are 4 entry sheets, as you can see here. The top left one is to draw an image and a cover for the box for your card game design. So that would encourage the students to come up with a name for the card game design. We put appropriate imagery that might communicate something about their card game. And then the other sheet is to give some examples of cards within your game. What sort of symbols, what sort of information are on those cards? Because Richard is basically going to have to use this information to look at it to decide, you know, what's a really interesting game. So this is the students' sales pitch, really, to get their game chosen and selected to be the winner. We have the 2 other sheets here. This sheet is describe the rules of the game. How does a person win the game? Various questions on that. It's the text too small, I can't see it. And then there's an extra sheet for additional ideas. So, I mean, if the students want to develop it into a full game and work at it at home, fantastic, and take a photograph of the cards that they've made and, you know, develop it as much as you want. But these are the basics that we need, because we as a minimum, we need Richard to be able to understand what is the idea. What is the story behind the game? How does it work? How do you play it? What are the rules? And what do the cards look like? Because Richard's job is going to be working with those students of the winning game to turn it into a real thing. And then finally, we've got the uploading. Actually, at the very end, we've got the questions and answers form to answer. We've got a deadline now of the 1st of April, 2021 at 11:59 GMT. And then right at the bottom, how to enter. Basically, click the upload page. This is the upload page. So this is how the entries are made. Now, each school is going to do this differently depending on their systems. We are speaking with one school who is thinking about allowing the students to individually upload their ideas. So this allows that. So the first one you upload is the game box. So I've chose that. Wait a minute, I need to go to here. The game box is this one here. This is I'm just uploading an empty one. Now it says upload your game card design sheet. Now, so I'm searching, that's that one. Okay, you can add additional optional descriptions if you want to, in addition to what's been written on the sheet. And then now upload your game description sheet. So these are the 3 main sheets. This is the one with all of the text on, describing your game, how does it work, etc. And again, you can add descriptions. Basically, if you add description text into these 2 boxes, that's great, fantastic, because it will show on the website alongside the image of these drawings. And then more sheets is basically if you have any more any more additional sheets. So we do put in an extra drawing sheet that could be used if you've got any more information about your game design. And then once those sheets are uploaded, the questions change a little bit. First name, obviously, or team, choose that. So if it was team, you just put in John, whatever, John and Paul. The name of the school, an email, which would be the teacher, or if it's a parent doing it, the parent. So if the students were doing this, they would be given the teacher's email, if that is appropriate for your school. So this particular school was thinking about that, but we haven't actually started the process yet. So it's up to the schools on how they enter. The card game name, the team age range. So you put in 11 to 12, whatever it is. This one is important. It's basically because on the website, we're going to have a little gallery, a live gallery, which will show the pictures of the drawings of the game and a short description of the game. So that text will show on the website next to the drawings that the young people have submitted. So it's important that they write, a paragraph at least describing their game. It can be as long as they want. The more the merrier. Fantastic. And then city, country, and then terms and conditions. And you can choose to join the Little Inventors newsletter if you wish, and then send to us. And that is basically the system of uploading that we have built into the website, which we're very happy to get feedback on, work in progress, but this is the way we've designed it, and I hope it works well. And obviously the situation we're in makes it challenging, and each school will have its own ideas on how things can be done. But I will stop my sharing, come back in the room, and I think, well, should I hand over to Susie? There we go.
Thank you so much, Dominic. We've had a couple of questions, and hopefully that has been helpful for you guys. But we've had a couple of questions, and I put them to a poll because I think it would be good to get a sense, maybe more broadly, from the group that we have in the meeting to answer them. So, Charlotte, can I ask you to share your screen and do the Word versions poll? There was a question from Judy which asked, would Word versions of the sheets be useful for us to generate? We currently don't have Word versions of the handouts, but if they would be, let us know. And it seems like we're getting a very strong yes, which is really helpful. So that's fantastic. Thank you for that. And then we have we don't have them at the moment, but we will provide them and have them as part of the pack. Ellie, when can we get them done? By next week sometime?
Yeah, next week. I'm not sure, we could maybe send them out directly or let everyone know when we've updated the pack on the website. But yeah, we'll do that hopefully by the middle of next week.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That'd be great. And we have a second poll, which really is about the question around HCA researchers. If there's any questions or requests for further information, we're really, really keen to help as much as possible. But we're wondering, is there any particular platforms or mechanisms that you guys use which we could share maybe that with everybody who kind of is participating in the challenge? So there's a few suggestions from our side: Slack, Google Classrooms. If you could maybe just let us know where you go or what mechanism or platform would be useful maybe for us to think about that, that'd be great. I'll just give you a minute to. Teams, weekly digest email. We do have a MailChimp that we've been starting to send through information. Brilliant. Fantastic. Okay, cool. So a weekly digest email will be useful, and or Google Classrooms or Teams. So there's a variety there. So we'll let you know which one we choose. That's great. We've got some further questions, which is great. Let's see. Is there a limit of entries per school? And I would say no. There is no limit whatsoever. I think the only thing to say really is that the challenge has been, targeted to engage year 7 to year 9, roughly the ages between 11 and 14, slightly over, slightly under, but those years 7, 8 and 9 really are the target students that we're looking to get to participate. So once they're in that space, as many as possible, we would love as many ideas coming through as possible. And the deadline for submission, it was going to be the 26th of February, but given our current situation, we've pushed it to the 1st of April, as Dominic says, at 11:59 p.m. That may well change again, but that's what we're hoping for. And hopefully, if the stars align, it might mean that there's some face-to-face activity in that space and time period as well. If not, and if it's all has to be delivered remotely, then so be it. I just want to see if there's any other questions.
There's just a question in the chat as well. Oh, there we go.
Oh, brilliant. So I may have to recruit students to engage in the challenge through a remote lunchtime club. Is there anything that could be used to advertise, e.g. a poster? That's a really great idea. It's not something that we had anticipated, but we have been kind of devising posters that we can certainly amend. Ellie, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we can do that, but again, yeah, we just need a little bit of time, but brilliant. Hopefully towards the end of next week we could do that.
Exactly, and we can kind of share that via the attendee list here, and maybe make it available as well for other schools that may want to take part. Just looking to see if there's any other questions.
I think the other from us, Susie, I was interested to know if how many students they expect to have printers at home, like whether if we need to rethink the way that they fill in the upload sheets.
So maybe we could,
because obviously we can make Word documents, but that's not great for drawing. So yeah.
So how best to get that information back? Maybe Charlotte, could you do a poll and say, do people have access to printers at home? We're really keen to see how we can support no, which is not, we have a okay. It's very dynamic, changing as we speak. Yeah, so a kind of 50-50 at the moment, 60-40 to a yes and a no. So I think we're really open, and maybe you guys have my contact. I'll drop it in the chat as well. If there's any way that we can support, getting these printed sheets out to your students, do kind of get in touch with us, because we're happy to help and work out solutions. Obviously, we're all in a fluid space, and from our side of things, we're really interested in facilitating as much as we can on our side. You engaging with your students with this challenge. So if it's a matter of printing out sheets, if it's about let's have a chat about it, get in touch with me, and we can kind of progress conversations individually at this moment until we kind of figure out maybe a process a little bit more formally. But for this session, if you need our support, or if you've got some ideas around how we can help students get access to what they need for this, get in touch with me. In saying that, we've got these lovely design sheets. A plain sheet of paper, I think, can also suffice. And I mean, I'll point to Ellie and Dominic and Richard for that. But, you know, worst case scenario, really, this is about the idea. This is about going through the process. And if they've just got a plain sheet of paper that they take a photograph of and send through via email or whatever system that you guys use, that's also an entire possibility. But feel free to get in touch and have a kind of a one-to-one dialogue around that as well. Brilliant. So Peter C, many of my students will not have printers, but will take photos of hand-drawn work that they can upload. Exactly. We're on the same page. That's fantastic. Lovely.
That's fine if they upload to the website pictures of on plain paper, just so long as they try to maybe copy the upload format or include as much information as they would have put on those sheets. I think better to have the ideas than not, I would say.
100%. Great. I am conscious that it's 2 minutes past 5, and you're all very busy people with busy lives. And I just want to thank you again for joining us at this Teacher CPD. I hope it's been helpful. You know, do keep in touch with us. We're really interested to see how you get on. We're really interested in supporting delivery in these very strange times, and recognize that you're going to be doing this, you know, over and above an awful lot of extra work you'd be doing anyway. So thank you, and do get in touch, and we'll look forward to your students' ideas. Take care.